Hi, this is David Cullen. I'm executive editor of Heavy Duty Trucking magazine. I'm here at the Work Truck Show in Indianapolis with Richelle Carkin, who's with Freightliner Trucks. And Richelle is going to give us a little tour of the new Freightliner eM2 medium-duty electric truck. And Richelle, could you first tell us about the thinking behind the truck and when it's going to enter production, and then point out some of the features for us?
Yes, happy to. So the thinking behind this truck was, first of all, we kept in mind that in general, people might want to make it just be more familiar to them. So we went ahead and designed it very similar to anything that they would be used to driving on a regular basis. So the key starts similarly. It's one notch low voltage. The second notch powers up high voltage and actually starts the vehicle. And the design inside is all standard M2 except for the cluster. We do have a new HMI on there, and when we do launch in 2021, it'll have whatever new technology is on that M2 at that time. So we're sharing as much as possible. The chassis is also standard to the M2, so this whole truck was ordered and then upfitted with all the high voltage components. So it does have the Freightliner durability and trustworthiness that people appreciate about our products. I'll go ahead and walk you through some of the high voltage components as well. So under the hood, typically you're going to have in an electric vehicle a lot of cooling and battery management systems. So for example, in here we have a radiator, which is typical to any truck, but that radiator for an electric vehicle serves to also provide cooling to the batteries. Down in this corner here, we have the battery heater, which you can recognize by the orange connectors sticking out of the top of it. This box sitting up here is a low voltage signaling unit, so that's going to send signals to the drive motor on how fast to turn, for example. And then back behind it, it's a little difficult to see, but back under those black cables, we have an example of an inverter. There's several inverters on the vehicle, and the inverter operates it's basically like a switch that turns DC power into AC power. It can adjust the voltage and then turn it back into DC power if needed, because high voltage batteries actually only provide DC power, and we need the AC to make a lot of the components work on this vehicle. You can see here that this truck only has one battery pack installed on it. This black casing around it is for crash protection. We're taking that very seriously with our electric vehicles, making sure that they're safe. If you look kind of between the frame rail and that black box, you can see little silver boxes in there, and those are considered modules. So batteries are comprised of battery pack, which is this whole big part, modules, which are those smaller silver portions, and then cells, which are going to be inside of the modules. The modules are going to contain some cooling components and then be linked together, and then the battery management system is going to control the heating and cooling to all of those modules inside the pack. Down on the outside of the pack, you can see that orange box, which is a safety precaution. So when you turn the key off, the contactors should come free and the high voltage should disengage. If anything were to go wrong there, you can pull this box out, this orange box, and that would immediately disengage the high voltage system. You can see orange cables coming out the back of the battery pack, and those are going to indicate high voltage. So any cable that's bright orange like that is going to be a high voltage cable. That's a standard indication of a high voltage cable in the industry. And then in this box here in the back, you're going to have all your high voltage components aside from the battery, DC to DC converter. You're going to have your onboard charging unit. You're going to have power distribution unit, which is going to route all of the cabling. So all the cables from the battery pack are going to come into that and then be rerouted to the system that is going to be needing power. This is basically a junction box. So this air compressor unit is self-contained. It has its own motor as well as its own inverter, and it powers the air brakes and the suspension. The eM2 is a truck that we are currently focusing on pickup and delivery and last mile logistics. So fleets that would find that particularly interesting would be ones that go between probably 150 and 200 miles in a day, come back to the same location in the evenings, and have an extended period of time to charge, possibly even overnight. Those would be ideal use cases. While the truck does have the ability to charge quickly, up to 80% state of charge in 60 minutes, that would be a function that at this point in time you would only want to use once in a while, not as part of your use case, because it does have an impact on the battery. So having longer period of time to charge at a slower rate really does help prevent battery degradation, and also can be really good for customers that want to keep their overall operating costs down, because it allows you to use smart charging software to charge the vehicle during off-peak hours rather than just whenever it returns to the hub. So in conclusion, that was a walk around of our eM2. You can watch for it to enter series production in 2021.